All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another one of these vlogs slash live streams of my journey to a CNA. So we're going to do our basic things, which is just some audio checks, make sure everything is good, and then get things ready while I am preparing to chat about what week 4 has been like. So just give me a second here. And as always, if you guys are tuning into the live stream, I don't think too many people tune into these, but if you are, always just drop your name, where you're from, things like that, just so we have a little bit of interaction. That's always fun. Okay, I think we're pretty good. So let's do the audio check. Yes, audio check is good. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So just so you have something to look at instead of just staring at my screen the whole time, let's experiment with some captions. So again, the purpose of this video, we'll always start these off like that. Today, I'm going to be talking about week 4 of 8 of my journey to become a CNA experience. There, as a reminder, every single week, there are 3 days of class every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It is from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., so they're about 4 hours long each time. Sometimes class ends early. There's only been a handful of times when class ended a little later. Today, we actually have, I think, a pretty short live stream, but I'm just going to jump into the general things with day 1. So this past Tuesday, was CPR examination. It was a very fast day. So we went into class, and basically our teacher gave us the CPR examination. It's fairly easy. I don't remember if it was like this before, but it's a completely open book exam. And moreover, you can actually collaborate with your classmates on the answers to the questions. So we all worked in groups. We could even ask the professor questions. It was a very easy exam. It was only 25 questions. And I think we got out. So class started at 9, and then we got out at 11 a.m. So it was only about 2 hours in class. That was the only thing on the schedule for the day because we were pretty ahead of schedule. And that was it. That was day 1. CPR examination. It's pretty simple BLS stuff of like, how much should you compress someone's chest for a good chest compression? It's like 5 centimeters for adults or 1/3 of the chest for kids. Things like that. Very, very basic. And then if we didn't know, we could just refer to the exam. That was day 1. And then day 2 is super easy because day 2 was actually canceled. Unfortunately, many of our classmates got there. I arrived at like 8:44 a.m. and then class was canceled a minute later. So all of us were it was kind of a bummer, but it was also nice because we then had a free day. We don't actually know what happened, but I assume it's some sort of emergency. But that was day 2, so it was pretty quick. And then day 3, that was today, a couple of things happened. The first thing is our professor told us about how do you write a cover letter and a resume, and showed us her cover letter and resumes that she uses to apply for different jobs. You have to keep in mind, like in a lot of these classes, what I notice is a lot of people are pretty young. Some of them are fresh out of high school. Some of them are second careers, or some of them are even applying to medical school or PA school or some other sort of professional school in healthcare. And they tend to be maybe in their late 20s, maybe early 30s, but most of the class is fairly young. So this was like a very useful session for them. This took probably like the first hour of class. And then I was just on Reddit because I posted about the unscripted RX that I'm building. And I was just like busy responding to people on there. So it was great though. I stopped to listen to some of the things that she was sharing. It's always great to see what other people's experiences are when they're doing cover letters and resumes. And then the fun stuff, which is the two skills that we learned. So today was pretty fun. I think, I think I mentioned this in the last class, but I finished all the quizzes and examinations all the way up until the end of the course, which is the end of this month. And all I'm focusing on is really learning those practical hand-on skills. And that's what we spend most of class doing. And that's what we did today. We pretty much stayed the entire course. It was like 2.5 hours of just practicing skills. The first skill, and let me actually type it out so you know what they are. Skill number one is assisting patients with the bedpan. It was kind of interesting in the sense that these are patients who are typically immobile or perhaps fresh out of surgery, can't walk to the bathroom, or are a fall risk. Just basically things that require them to go to the bathroom while they're on the bed. We didn't use mannequins for this skill, and we practiced on each other. And so it was interesting of an experience to practice on someone, but also to be the patient. So I was the patient for like 3 of these examples. Just, I think it was how do you say it? A unique experience to feel what it's like to be in that position. So basically, if you're not familiar with what this is, patients in the hospital, of course, need to go to the bathroom. Either they have to go pee or they have to go poop, and they're on the bed. And so the skill teaches you how to roll them over, put a peri-pap. What is that? I don't remember what it was called, but basically, or the blue chucks. It's basically a absorbent piece of paper that you put underneath them from like the shoulder to the knees, and then you put it there, and it can absorb any type of spills that you might have. So you pull them over, roll them over, and you put it down, and then you roll them back on this side so you can roll it all the way out so you have something to absorb spills if you have any, and then you roll them over one more time, and then you have this we used a partial bedpan, and there's a way you put it and you kind of like cup it on their butt, and you have a little bit of space in front for where their pee or poop would go. You cup it on their butt and you roll them back over. I think the interesting experience here was that I got to see, or rather feel, what that was like, and it's rather uncomfortable. And once you do that, you bring the head of the bed back up and you give them some toilet paper. You walk away to let them do their business. And it's a fairly uncomfortable position. And I can only um, empathize with individuals who have to use a bedpan because it seems like a very unpleasant and uncomfortable experience. But that's what we did. So that's the very first skill, just learning how to appropriately do this in a way that's always safe, good infection control practices. And then number three is making sure you do it in a way that doesn't, just appropriately, I guess, because there are a lot of accidents that can happen. Like, for example, when you're removing the bedpan, if you do it in a way wrong, or if the patient moves too fast, you can spill everything everywhere, and that can probably be a nightmare. So you definitely don't want that. And then let me see here. That's most of that skill. I'll move to the next skill, which is, let's see, number 2. Yeah, this one. It was a lot easier, and emptying the catheter bag. All right. So this was the last skill, and this one was one that I already do for grandma when her catheter bag is pretty full. When it's full, it's hard to walk her. It's very, how do you say it? it's just very inconvenient to move it around. They get pretty heavy, and then she has one of those larger bags because you don't want to empty it very often. She goes to the bathroom pretty often. She has an indwelling catheter, so we don't want to be changing it too often. So you have a large bag, and then when you have to empty it, it does take a while to empty. So I've actually done this in real life many, many times. And so it's actually interesting to get the experience of what is the appropriate way to empty the catheter bag. And there were some aha moments that were pretty interesting that perhaps were intuitive and logical. And I'll give an example. When I go empty the urine bag, usually it's hooked on somewhere. You always want to make sure it's lower than the patient's bladder, and then you would unhook the little drain. There's like usually a little, like, I don't know, like a knob or nozzle. You release it, and all the urine will go into some sort of cup or holder. There's like a holder that's in the bathroom that I'll usually take out to get everything and then just dump it out. Things that were interesting to me, and again, probably very intuitive to others, are things like, well, you should probably have some sort of paper towel or just a towel underneath when you're doing this so you don't get the floor wet. What I noticed is that the floor is often wet because it's easy to spill. So it's good to have that there. Another thing is also to have like alcohol pads. So the alcohol pad is to make sure you clean off the tip when that's draining, because it's urine and it could be uncleanly to not clean it. So after you empty it, you would clean it with the alcohol pad and you would put it back. And some of the very technical skills that were very useful were things like, hey, you should use your non-dominant hand to hold it and your dominant hand to drain, and then you would put it back. You hold on to the bed and use your non-dominant hand to hold the drain while you use the dominant hand to wipe it with the alcohol pad. So just a lot of practical good skills, and this was like one that was very good for me because again, I get to use it, practice it, and do it in a safer way than if I had just done it as I usually can. Of course, I can always Google these kind of things, but it's great to get it mentorship and guidance from our professor who's been a nurse for many, many years. I think it was like 25 or plus years. So I really appreciate that and the chance to practice and people can look over me. That is it. That is the day 3, or rather week 4 experience. I think it was pretty good. Just to kind of conclude here, I had a couple points that I want to make. The first is, I don't know if all the other classes are like this, but those that are, where there's like a whole sort of quizzes, readings, and exams coupled with skills, which I think are one of the most important. Now, reminders, the CNA test are those two parts. One is didactic, of just like a computer-based test, and then the other one is like a skills-based test where you're evaluated on performing 3 random skills out of the 25 they teach you. So both are really important. But what I did for my class is I got all of the quizzes and examinations done so I could just purely focus on the skills, which is why I even attended the class in the first place. So that's the first thing. I appreciate now that I can just focus on those skills. The other comment, just observation to make, was like a lot of people actually dropped out, I believe. We started the class from 12, and now it's usually about 4 to 6 students that are consistently there. And I'm not sure why people are dropping out. Maybe because like a lot of people are doing drop ad. This is part of a college campus. So this is Hillsborough Community College. So maybe it is just like a drop ad season. A lot of people initially dropped out. And then the other thing is like I think I'm a little fortunate. I don't have a full-time job or a part-time job or a full load in school. Many of the people who are taking the course with me have a full school load. So they're taking college credits and working towards like an AA, or they are working a full-time job and they are struggling. They mentioned it's pretty hard to struggle. It's challenging to balance this course along with their work or their school load. But that is it. That is the end of week 4. Hopefully this was helpful and this is interesting. Otherwise, I will see you guys in next week.